From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers, home of the best-selling truck 41 years straight, and the 2018 Nissan Titan, backed by America's best limited truck warranty.
Newton in the gun, three receivers right. McCaffrey is the tailback. Fakes the handoff. Saints bring pressure down. Incomplete pass. The Saints are going to win it. The Saints defense comes up big again. Turnover on downs, and the Saints will take over at the 39 and win this game in Carolina.
That has been this team's MO the last couple of weeks. Good evening, everyone. Welcome inside the Black and Gold Review Show alongside Deuce McAllister and Sean Vazan. I'm Juan Kincaid. The Saints are one win away from clinching the NFC's #1 seed and 2 wins away from having the best record in franchise history. Not a care in the world right now. It's all downhill, right?
I wouldn't say all of that, but you are in a pretty good position.
Yeah.
In a good spot. But let's not kid ourselves. There are some issues that have to be ironed out. But still, you'd rather have those issues at 12-2.
You're right. They've struggled to win games the last 2 weeks, but they found a way, and that's important. Let's get you right to the headlines in tonight's show. A lot of things to get to. First and foremost, Cam Newton. He's going to hold on to that broom a little bit longer. 4 straight wins for the Saints over the Panthers. He wanted to give it back. He's not giving it back yet.
Well, I don't think he's going to hold on to the broom. He'll probably break it or throw it away. But you know, that symbol for him to get energized, I don't want to say it backfired on him, because look, they couldn't get anything going. That defense played outstanding, and his motivation, if that's what it was, it didn't work. So maybe he needs something else.
Look, he's not right. No. Cam Newton is not right.
It's clear to see.
I mean, the velocity, the accuracy. Now, I know they don't have many playmakers on the edge, and it's really Christian McCaffrey or nothing when it comes to the Panthers, but Cam Newton looks like a guy that's banged up, doesn't run the same, doesn't throw the same. That he clearly played up that storyline in his head leading into that game. And you saw with the cleats or whatever. Well, guess what? That broom is staying in Carolina. So that's 4 straight. That is hard to do in the NFL, much less your same division. So kudos to the Saints. They matched their intensity and won the game.
I think you look at Cam Newton, and not one player in the Saints locker room would say it last night, but you could almost feel them saying, you know, we watched film on this guy. We knew that teams before them, past 5 games, have gotten to him with no problem, have picked him off with no problem. He gets sacked 4 times last night, has another interception. He struggles to throw the ball, the deep ball. He doesn't have that arm strength, and everything was underneath, so it made the Saints' defensive job that much easier.
Well, it made it easier, but I mean, it's still, you had to adjust to it. And for a while there, they didn't really adjust, particularly on the slant routes. In the end, they started jumping them and sitting on them. But I mean, outside of the interception that Eli Apple was able to get, you know, I don't remember him pushing the ball down the field maybe more than 15 yards or so.
No, I completely agree, and I can recall that on that last drive, that throw he had, and I know it was tipped, but that ball just came out funky, and that was on kind of a cross. It was between that 10 to 15-yard window. Like I said, he's just not right, and the Saints are right, at least right enough to win 12 games so far. So, look, all good for the black and gold.
Let's get you right into the playbook once again. For play number 2, defense picks up the slack. Again, 4 sacks, 2 turnovers, but they seem to make big play after big play. And this is the second week in a row we've seen this defense get better and kind of bring the offense along a little bit.
Championship-level defense, as far as I'm concerned. They've steadily gotten better and better and better to where now, frankly, this team needs this kind of effort, or they've needed this kind of effort to win 2 of the last 3 weeks. Let's not forget, this was a 3-game road trip. That is not easy in the NFL. 3 straight road games, Deuce, I'm sure you can attest to that. So they were able to win 2 out of 3, but this defense it's more than just a complimentary defense now. They've kind of taken over games here, and I don't know about you, but I had really little fear when Panthers got the ball back after Tommy Lee Lewis's fumble. I thought the Saints defense was going to finish that thing out, given the field position, and I thought that they're playing championship-level defense right now.
And what's interesting is just not one player. You know, you go back to last year, it would probably just say, hey, look, it's Cam, Jordan, and everybody else.
Great call.
Right now, when you look at it, it's Von Bell making a play.
Had a great game yesterday.
He had an outstanding game. You know, it's Marshawn Lattimore, and it's like, did Marshawn even get involved? I mean, because they're not even testing him. And Eli Apple is starting to make plays for him. On the linebacker core, AJ Klein comes up with the huge fumble recovery, but you have DeMario Davis as well as Anzalone that's been able to fill in. You know, a player that was ridiculed going to the Minnesota game P.J. Williams.
Yeah.
He's been outstanding in the slot. And so, you know, you have different playmakers that are stepping up and making plays for this defense. So it's been fun to watch.
I think for me, the most critical thing that's happened with this defense is the emergence of Eli Apple and how much he's gotten better since when he first came here. Teams are still picking on that side of the field. But now he's kind of shorted up a little bit. And again, PJ's playing better in a different spot.
Yeah.
There's not that pressure of being one-on-one all the time out on the edge. I just think that those two guys have been the real difference makers in the secondary. That all of a sudden teams are looking at it and saying, there's really no easy option to go to there. We may go back to Marshawn's side, and that may be the best thing for the Saints to happen.
I would just say let's not forget about Dennis Allen's impact as well.
Absolutely.
He's calling great games. Again, every blitz seems to work. When he calls it, he dials it up, and it works. So let's not forget Dennis Allen as well.
Yeah, whether it's a safety blitz with Von or even Marcus Williams or the zone dog that we saw a couple times on that last play, that's a zone blitz. Cam Jordan is dropping. You know, he's a linebacker playing the hook area, and he's covering that tight end. You know, you saw it a couple other times where Davenport was dropping. They would go drop 8. We've seen them do that a lot of time with the defensive tackle, and that's Sheldon Rankins dropping just to be able to interfere with it. So they're doing an outstanding job of just mixing and matching.
All right, back in the playbook now, because everything that's right about the defense, there's so many things that are question marks on the offense. Crouching Saints, hidden offense. Listen, it's back-to-back-to-back games where the offense has gotten off to slow starts. Even Drew Brees said after the game, we've got to get that fixed. He understands that when you get into the playoffs, they're going to be teams that can make you pay for the way you've started football games. What's the problem here, Deuce?
Small mistakes. I think it's more of an execution than just overall hauling, you know, the players. Yes, if they get some of those injured players back, it will help them. But I think it's the small mistakes that are getting these guys. You know, even on that play there, you talk about the interception. He's got to be late with his hands. I mean, because you're playing a guy that's been in the league 14, 15 years in Thomas Davis. And so when you're going up as a receiver, you have to do the little things well. And right now, the little things are hampering this offense from being great like they were earlier in the season.
And it's still an issue other than Michael Thomas naming the number 2 target. I know Kirkwood had a big catch last night. I know Traquan had a couple of nice catches that one moved the sticks, one nearly moved the sticks. But still, naming the number 2 target right now, I think that's a critical issue with this team. I think it's the biggest issue heading into the postseason with this team. I do want to see what happens when A, Teron Armstead comes back, which I know we'll get into a little bit later, but B, they were on the road, and communication is a big issue on the road. Now, when they get a few home games, and this offense could use a few home games right now, let's just see if it falls back into place. But I still think this is a legitimate concern. Like they say, 1's an accident, 2's a trend, 3 is a problem. I think we're getting to this point now where this is concerning heading into the postseason.
Let me ask you this question, because this is what I see. You know, I think there's being put, and maybe I'm wrong, I think too much is being put on the fact that when Ted Ginn Jr. gets back and Armstead gets back, that all of a sudden this offense is going to wake up again and be what it was. I think the problem's deeper than that. I think when you look at the receiving core, again, who's the number 2 guy? You've got a bunch of young players that have never been asked to be the guy opposite of Michael Thomas before, and they're struggling with dealing with that.
Well, both of those players will help, though. I mean, because when you talk about Ted,
but will it help right away, though? You think it'll be like night and day? Okay.
Ted can still run.
Yeah.
And right now, those safeties are creeping down, and if you can attribute an extra safety to be able to bracket Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, then I mean, all of those other guys are one-on-one. If you can hit a team for a deep ball, you know, whether it's 15 or 20 yards or 30 yards, whatever, that's going to back a safety up. And for Teron, now you don't have to slide protection. Now you don't have to play as tight with some of your alignments. I mean, just to be able to secure the pocket for Drew Brees.
All right, let's move to headline number 4. And we talk about the offensive line. Teron Armstead, of course, didn't play again last night. We're waiting to see him come back. But you lose Bushrod, you lose Max Unger, concussion protocol. We'll see what happens with that going forward. This is an offensive line that had to figure it out last night, and they were able to get it done down the stretch. But this is not the ideal way you want to go forward with this offensive line.
No, but that's the NFL. You gotta survive in a pinch. I mean, the Saints have been the beneficiary of that with opponents' injuries during games, before games. So you gotta figure it out, particularly with the offensive line. It's not an easy thing to do. They did just enough on that final drive to keep moving the sticks and making plays. It wasn't perfect, but I did think Will Clapp's NFL debut, I think he at least looked like he belonged. I know he played the tackle eligible, and that was inserted into that left guard. He got beat a couple times, but still had decent body language. Cameron Tom got beat as well, but still, it's not an easy scenario. Monday Night Football on the road in the division. And look, you got to deal with it, and hopefully they'll get these guys healthy again, because I think it's the best offensive line in the NFL when healthy?
I'll tell you, of all those guys that switch position, whether you're talking about Cam Tom, Will Clapp, and or Andres Pete, probably Cameron Tom had gotten the most work throughout the week.
Yeah.
The other guys, they may have gotten 10 reps at those positions. So you really tip your hat to Dan Roshar for having them ready and prepared. You know, and my question was, hey, look, if somebody else get bangs up, who's next?
Right.
You know, because they didn't have any more eligible linemen to go. So I think they're going to be okay from an offensive line standpoint. They did sign Derek Newton. He was not active last night. I mean, that would have been tough to throw him in there anyway with just being here less than a week. But this unit has battled, and they did enough to be able to help that offense to move the football. They got that ball back with around 8:51, and they took it within 2 minutes.
Yep.
I think that speaks for itself.
The big question, though, with this offensive line, Armstead, what's your thoughts on his return? When does he get back? Is it more rush now when you got any other offensive line injuries?
You hope they don't rush him at this standpoint, just because you know that, hey, look, one of the next two, you will be able to secure it. But at some point, you know, hopefully he can get out there. And I think he's close. I think he's close to being ready to be able to contribute.
Look, I think the Bushwright injury, depending on how severe it is, I think this kind of, if you were planning on holding him until the playoffs, I think you got to rethink that if Bushwright's going to be out for any period of time.
Are you less stressed about Unger's concussion situation, if it is a true concussion?
Yeah, I think he just got caught with same shoulder, same foot, and that was just a play that he got dinged on.
All right, let's get back to the playbook real quickly. Our final play, and again, back-to-back weeks, finding a way to finish through adversity. It seems to be this team's MO. It's a good thing that they can do that, but you don't want to live on that way.
You don't want to live that way, but I mean, if a team can win offensively in a shootout, if they can win in a defensive struggle, or even special teams having to make a play, you're fine that way. I mean, because it's all a part of a team effort. And so with them having the ability to fight through that adversity, that shows that regardless of the score, we know we have a chance.
Great point, because, you know, the Cowboys game, it was kind of a muddy game like this, and it ended up being 13-10. They lost. Can they win a low-scoring game? Well, it proves to themselves that they can indeed win a low-scoring game when it's 12-9. This was kind of a throwback to the late 80s, early 90s New Orleans Saints with the Dome Patrol winning games 12-9, 9-6, 9-7, those type of games. So the bottom line is you finish the job, and I said this before, in the NFL, close games are the norm. What you were doing for part of that win streak, that was the outlier. So figuring out ways to win. I think it builds character as well. This is a great group, a great locker room. So look, 12-2, you take a win no matter how you get in the NFL.
Real quickly, Deuce, to ask you on a follow-up, if you're on this team and you're seeing your offense struggle the way it has the last 3 weeks, at what point do you become concerned about it?
Well, you go back to the basics. I think that's what you have to do. You go back to the basics, the things that you do really well, you know, and making sure everybody understands that sometimes you can get so big, so many formations, so many routes that, hey, look, I don't know what I'm doing. My head is swimming. And so for this group, going back to the basics, I think will be key.
All right, let's get forward here. For all the latest Saints news and to get in touch with us, and check us out on the Final Play app. If you already have it, go to your app store and check for the update to the Final Play app. And once you're up to speed, you can check out our videos, blogs, and use the Final Word feature to get in touch with us. Coming up here on the Black and Gold Review Show, the NFC saw 3 of its top 6 teams lose this week, but the Saints weren't one of them. We'll re-examine the playoff picture. And later, we're dipping into the mailbag to answer the role team chemistry plays in close victories like we saw in Charlotte on Monday. Stay with us.
The Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the 2018 Nissan Titan.
That's okay. All right, welcome back in. We got into the playbook last segment. Now time to get into the playoff picture. It's rounding into form. Here's how things shake out after 15 weeks of NFL regular season play. Of course, the Saints are sitting on top now. They're a full game ahead of the LA Rams. In third place, Chicago. Dallas is 4th. Seattle 5th. Minnesota 6th. If the season ended today and the playoffs started, you'd have Chicago taking on Minnesota, Dallas facing Seattle. Give me your thoughts real quick. Well, first off, on how things are stacking up right now. The 1-2 seems to almost be pretty much set in stone, but still a couple weeks left to play.
Look, I win this next game and ice this thing as far as I'm concerned with the Saints, because then you can maybe rest some guys for week 17, which is, I'm sure, with the injuries that have been piling up, that's something that they would like to do. Those teams right there that we just saw, in terms of who I'd rather see play, I think I'd almost rather a Rams matchup than the Bears matchup. I think the Bears are built for the playoffs. I'm not sure the Rams are right now.
For me, when you look at it, the Saints really have a mulligan, just because you know that they have one game up on the Rams. But I agree, Sean. If they can win next week or this week here against Pittsburgh, then you can go into week 17 and sit some of those guys that are banged up and injured, and still you're going to be looking at 2 weeks off before you have to play a game. That is an outstanding scenario. But when you look at it and you can have your preference of teams to play, I think it would be the Rams, because obviously they would come here, but I don't know how well the Rams are playing up front as well. Yeah. Offensive line, they're beat up also.
If you look at 3 through 6, and I know things are still have to be settled with Chicago there at 10-4, just your thoughts on if things fall by the wayside for the Saints, they struggle down the stretch, lose their last 2 games, and the Bears win their last 2 games, might there be a chance that Chicago ends up being the top seed and the Saints fall back to number 3 if the Rams don't lose again?
If the Rams don't lose again, yes, that would be the scenario that has to happen. And now you talk about the next 2 weeks, you're really pressing as far as an organization. But then you talk about the Bears having to win out as well. So, it's going to be interesting. I think for this group, particularly the Saints, control what you can control, and that's your game.
That would be a worst-case scenario. Yes. If all of a sudden they lose out and somehow fall out of the, maybe not the 1 seed, but home field advantage, that would certainly be, or a first-round bye, excuse me, that would be tough. So, don't see that happening, but that's why, look, each game, it takes on a life of its own. Getting back home, they haven't played a home game since Thanksgiving. It's going to be almost Christmas. So, I mean, look, get a home game, get back to the the friendly confines of the Dome, and get rolling.
Actually, real quickly, one more time, which record ends up being better, the home record or the road record?
Home record.
It'll be tied, right?
It'll be tied.
Yeah, both 7-1.
It's a trick question.
You got me.
Sure you're paying attention.
You didn't get me, though.
All right, up next is Ted Ginn, just what the doctor ordered for the Saints' ailing offense, perhaps, but is the veteran wideout going to be healthy in time to play? We're answering your questions about that. And later, a win over the Steelers on Sunday, and the Saints can sit back and relax when they host the Panthers Week 17. Get your first preview of the Black and Yellow coming up.
Black and Gold Review is sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealer, the best-selling truck 41 years straight. You're watching the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the 2018 Nissan Titan.
We pride ourselves on getting great questions here. We got a bunch to get to. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right, submit it using the Final Play app. And the final word feature, the first question, it's obvious the chemistry on this team is tremendous, both on and off the field. How early in the season did you sense there was something special this year? This comes from Neil Adams in LaRose.
I thought the game that really did it for me early was the Atlanta game, was where they had to survive that game, win that game in overtime. They were able to get to 2-1. That really kicked them into high gear because they beat New York, and then Washington had the bye and then went on that run, won 10 straight, obviously. I think that was the game where you knew the chemistry was special. And they've just been kind of riding it ever since. They have a good sense of when one side needs the other side to pick each other up and play complementary football.
Well, you talk about on and off the field. I think that really happened during the offseason. There has not been a lot of change as far as, you have some new members, Kurt Coleman, DeMario Davis, and things of that nature, but there hadn't been a lot of change from your core players. So this group has been together, and I think it really started, you go back to the Minnesota game, where they have been driven to try to get to this point.
Our next question from Brian Fassbender in Slidell. He says, will we see Ted Ginn Jr. back for the playoffs? How about before that?
Yeah, Brian, hopefully you get him back before the playoffs. You go back and you listen to Coach Sean Payton talk. It's been Josh Laribas or Ted Ginn Jr. Both of those guys have been candidates to return. Neither has practiced up until this point for Ted. He's missed enough time where he doesn't have to have the 2 weeks or 21 days to be activated. He can just practice this week and then be eligible to play on Sunday. And
if for no other reason, he gives the opposing defense another receiver that they have to respect. He'll loosen those safeties because he can blow the top off. Look, he's got inconsistent hands. He's done it his entire career, but still, he can kill you. And the Saints will certainly use that to their advantage. So hopefully he's back in time for the playoffs.
You got receiver issues, you got offensive line issues right now. Which guy is more important right now to have back, Laribas or Ginn Jr.?
I'm going to say Ginn. I'm going to say his ability to stretch the defense is probably what's critical. I mean, because that's going to help you offensive line-wise. You can still be able to run the ball with even some of those guys banged up.
All right, coming up, the Steelers could finish anywhere from the AFC's number 2 seed to out of the playoffs entirely. We'll give you a first look at the desperate team coming into the Dome in Week 16.
You're watching the Black and Gold Review Show, sponsored by your Southern Quality Ford dealers and the 2018 Nissan Titan.
Breeze from the shotgun. Steelers bring 4. He's going to throw and wide open on the far sideline is the veteran Ben Watson. And it's going to be caught in stride. Down to the 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Kenny Stills! Going to throw to Colston. Back shoulder throw. Touchdown, Saints!
Wow, that seems like such a long time ago. 2014 Halloween on the road, winning 35-32. Brees was hot that day. I think he'll need to be hot that day as well, this weekend as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a pretty good effort to beat the Steelers team. They can put up points. It's going to be interesting to see, you know, do you travel with Juju or do you, is it AB that gets the respect from the Saints defense? It's going to be a tough matchup, but it's one that I know they're looking forward to.
And this is the game I think you're going to need the offense to wake up because they got some explosive playmakers on Pittsburgh. As you said, Vance McDonald is a much better tight end than I thought, at least the way the Pittsburgh Steelers use him. I watched that game, obviously, on Sunday, Patriots and Steelers. But this is the game. I don't think you're going to be able to win 12-9. You're going to need some offensive plays to be made, and hopefully they snap out of their funk a little bit this weekend.
Is it me, and the times I've watched Pittsburgh this year, they don't have the same kind of Steeler defense you're used to seeing in years past?
Well, they give up big plays.
Yeah.
I think, they have given up big plays. One of the reasons I think they blitz so much is because they want you to get rid of the ball fast because, if quarterbacks are able to sit back there, they take apart their defense.
Saints don't want to wait till the last week of the season to wrap this up, do they?
No.
That puts
Take care
enormous
of this
pressure.
thing now.
Yeah.
But the Steelers are fighting for the AFC North right now. The Ravens have been coming on with Lamar Jackson, so they need a victory as well. Not going to be easy. Should be a fun showdown a couple days before Christmas.
They keep playing teams that have something to play for. Yeah. That's important for the Saints. We'll be back tomorrow with much more on the Saints and Steelers talk on Game Plan at 10:35. Come Sunday, an early morning tailgate finally, 10 a.m. Then we wrap up the day at 10:30 p.m. on The Final Play. Until then, for Deuce and Sean and everyone here at Fox 8, I'm Juan Kincaid. Thanks for watching. Our next newscast is at 4:30 in the morning. Have a great night.
From Fox 8 Sports, this has been the Black and Gold Review Show.